Welcome to another episode of Boxing Talk with Brian Mendoza. I'm Andrew Bocanegra. We're going to recap on the stack card this weekend in San Antonio. Pitbull, Lamont, Roach. What a show.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think just overall?
Another great war. You know, every time Pitbull's in the ring, you know, he's going to bring that action, you know, come with it. You know, he doesn't care about, you know, like punches looking pretty or anything. He's just trying to hit you. He's trying to break you down. And it's just a really exciting fight to watch for sure.
So I had Pitbull. I really thought Pitbull, you know, by round 6 or 7 was really gonna get to him, and he showed that early on. Roach just had the poise just to take the punches, and he figured. I think he figured him out. I think Pitbull was really discouraged in the later rounds.
Yeah, I definitely think Roach was able to, you know, bite down and find what he needed to find to really get through those rounds and win some of his own rounds, you know, like to even end up with that draw. And yeah, I also, like, I saw early on Pitbull was having a lot of success, you know, even got the knockdown and everything. And it was just interesting to see that it would play out. I thought Roach was going to be able to box him a little more with Roach's lateral movement and just his boxing IQ. But Pitbull was just staying on him, you know, like he would not give him any space, and it was just like that nonstop forward pressure.
Do you feel like Lamont Roach should have maybe kept a little bit more distance in those early rounds, because he sat in the middle of the ring with them? Is that something you really want to do with Isaac Cruz?
No, it's the exact opposite of what you want to do. That's why I really thought Roach has a very good boxing IQ. So I didn't think he was gonna run. I just thought he was gonna, you know, use the lateral movement and be just off the side and not be on that center line when Pitbull was coming at him like that. But he sat there, you know. I don't know if he just felt confident enough, or he didn't feel just, you know, when you're in there, things happen, you know, so it doesn't always play out the way that you expect it to. But I really expected him to box a little more, and I feel like, yeah, being a little more at distance would have helped him, a little farther distance. And like I said, Roach is good at, you know, not running, but just boxing, you know, just outside of the range of your punches and moving you around, you know, turning you. And he wasn't able to do that too much in this fight. And that I think that's what made the difference. But, you know, credit to Pitbull for being able to break through the boxing and everything and just keep pressure.
I mean, is it fair to say that Pitbull is the type of fighter that he's just going to come forward and you're going to have to play into his game? And I mean, you can't run from him, right? He's going to track you down. He's going to come at you hard. And Lamont Roach felt like he kind of just, I don't want to say fell into the trap, but he was forced to adapt to Cruz's style.
Yeah, I think he was trying to sit there and counter a little too much, because then you do end up it's like a trap. You just end up in Pitbull's fight. You can't give him, you know, where we're just sitting there trading. Even if you are like a very good counter puncher like Roach, it just gives Pitbull too many openings, because like I said, he doesn't care about the punch looking pretty or getting that one big shot through. He's trying to break you with every single punch he throws and kind of just let that volume go. So it just played more into Pitbull's hand.
Well, at what point do you think Pitbull started slowing down? Right, because he seemed discouraged in those later rounds. I mean, I haven't really seen him that discouraged in other fights, but he looked discouraged. He looked just like he couldn't figure Roach out. And, you know, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, that can happen when pressure fighters are used to breaking people down and seeing the damage done and everything. But Roach was still there, you know, up until those later rounds and everything. He was still there, and even though it was a Pitbull favorable type of fight, Roach was still having his moments. And I really think that Roach didn't get a lot of credit for his body work in that fight. You know, things were more focused on, like Pitbull threw some low blows, or was it low, or this or that. But
well, in the later rounds, he started working the body more. I mean, Pitbull in those early rounds was, you know, it was 4-1, 5-1 on body punches.
Oh, right? Exactly. Yeah, it definitely favored Pitbull, but I think a lot of people, they're so worried about, you know, opening up for the body that a lot of people just don't even try too much to go to Pitbull's body. And Roach was still, you know, brave enough to do it. Maybe not as often early in the fight, but as the fight progressed, you know, he kept picking up on it. And I think that's what also added to Pitbull being discouraged, because it'll slow you down a little bit. And as a pressure fighter, that's not what you want.
Yeah. So how important was that point deduction? with the low blows.
Changer, you saw in the decision, it ended up being a draw, and there you go. You know, that's 1 point goes the other way, and that, you know, someone actually walks away with the win. But is, just the way the fight played out. And I still personally edged it towards Pitbull a little bit, just because so much of the fight did play out in his favor. And Roach, even the fights or the rounds where I do think he won, I don't think they were super clear. I think Pitbull still had his moments even in those rounds. So it was a tough fight to score in a lot of those closer rounds. But
really tough fight to score.
Yeah.
I had it even. I thought it was a fair call.
Yeah.
At the end. I wanted to go back and revisit the tape, and I still need to. But overall, first time watching it, yeah, I thought, it was competitive. It was close.
Yeah.
I saw action on both sides. I think that point deduction, I'm not sure. Some of those were at the belt. They weren't really.
Yeah, Roach has one of those big waist belts on his shorts, so it can make shots look lower than they are. So some were low, some weren't. It's hard to tell with those, but yeah, I wasn't mad at the decision. I think it was I either edged it towards Pitbull or a draw. That's kind of the way I had it. But yeah, they both said that they're willing to run it back, and I would love to see a rematch between those two.
So Lamont Roach, Tank Davis. I mean, the word was that was a fluke. Right. Was that real? Was that really Lamont Roach? Right. Is he for real? I mean, would you say at this point he is for real? Like he legitimized himself in this
I believe so.
Weight division?
Yeah, I still think he deserves credit for the Tank fight. Whatever, Tank might have had an off night, or there's so many variables, but Roach, it's also a style matchup. Fighting Tank Davis is not like fighting Pitbull, and vice versa. So you're not going to look as sharp every time, but I feel like Roach earned his way. He had tough fights to get to where he's at, and it's just how things play out sometimes. But just because he didn't look at the sharpest fighter in the world against a guy like Pitbull, he's one person that Pitbull truly fits his style, where the ring name fits the style. And, you're not always going to look the same, but I do think he's a solid fighter at the weight class.
Well, regardless, it was a showdown, and I'd love to see a second fight.
Anytime. Yeah.
Right. Roach and Foster, Stephen Fulton. Right. That was the show.
Right.
Some might say it was a little boring. I enjoyed the technique part. I mean, there's a lot about that I enjoyed. The comments on social media following it was a boring fight. Got some booze, in the stands. What's your feedback on that fight?
Yeah, as far as it definitely wasn't another Pitbull fight. It was two technical fighters that also bring action to fights. But when those two styles match up, it's not always the most exciting. But as a fighter, I enjoyed it a lot because
I did too.
Exactly. So that side of me definitely enjoyed it because I'm kind of looking at, Foster was just really good on keeping the right distance. He had Fulton, swinging at the air for a lot of the fight.
A lot of air balls.
Yeah,
a good portion of the fight.
Exactly, and that's not something easy to do against a guy like Fulton, who also is very good at keeping his own distance and range and punch selection. So the fact that Foster was able to do that to someone like Fulton showed a lot. So that side of me, yeah, I was excited on that end, but I know as far as action, it wasn't for everybody.
A lot of people were expecting a Fulton, Brandon Figueroa.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
and that didn't happen. Would you say he got schooled? Or did he have an off night? I mean, what happened? Because that wasn't the Fulton that we know.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah, it was a very different Fulton, and honestly, yeah, it was very heavy towards Foster. Almost every round, I believe.
Every round, I think but one.
Yeah, so
I might have given him 2 rounds. For Fulton.
Yeah, it was just very heavily favored for Foster, but yeah, it was just really weird. The fact that he went up to a new weight class, couldn't make weight. Who knows what happened there? And
yeah, so they squared off at 135. I mean, so he came in 2 pounds, right over.
Yeah.
What does that do to your psyche?
It really depends on why that happened. Because if he maybe slacked off at some point, and then it's not gonna adjust his psyche because he knew it coming in. I did hear he was making weight up until the last moment. So if he really tried, maybe his body's just growing. He's growing into these new weight classes. It happens, sometimes, especially as you're.
But 2 pounds, Brian?
2 pounds is a lot, and you definitely see it coming. It's just, I don't know. From the look of his body, I didn't think he was, it didn't look like he suffered too much. He still, he didn't look as shredded or as he has in the past. So I'm really not sure. It kind of depends on what, but I think it was definitely not a Sharp's performance. Even though Foster is so good at his own style and everything, and had so much success. I don't know if this was the 100% Fulton that we're used to seeing.
So what's in the future for Foster? I mean, he looked amazing, right? He was just on point.
Yeah, I think he belongs. Trying to unify. He just picked up that WBC interim at 135, and he can try to do that. Still fight at 30. I think he can bang with anybody.
Great. Brian, love your feedback. Thank you for everything. So you can follow us on the Boxing VIP network on all social media platforms. You can also go to our website at boxingvip.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.